So, welcome to my first 2025 episode of the podcast. I've had a wee bit of a break, but this is exciting. I want to introduce you all to all my listeners to my friend Brandi. How are you, Brandi?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. So this is actually the first time I've been a podcast guest. So I'm very honored and privileged to share this space with you. So thank you for having me.
Oh no, thank you for agreeing, and I just love it that we've got this technology. Because where in the world are you, Brandi?
So I'm in Salmon Arm, British Columbia in Canada. So West Coast. I'm not on the coast, but I'm on the most western province, British Columbia.
Because you were in Spain for a while, weren't you? Were you in
Yes, I
Spain? Yes.
was.
Yeah,
So my daughter was born in Spain. I moved to Spain after I was in England. I was in England for many years and then I moved on to Spain. And
yeah.
that's where my wee Jasmine was born.
Oh, lovely. So, and how old is she now?
She turns 11 on Tuesday.
Oh, she's a teenager.
Yeah. She's a hockey player and a soccer star, so that's her.
Marvelous. So the
Yeah.
reason why I have asked Brandi to be a guest on my podcast is to bring lots of value. So Brandi and I met, we were just discussing it before we hit the record button, probably a good 25 to 30 years ago, even though I'm only 19. So
Right.
Brandi came to New Zealand and she lived here for a while, and we met at the first gym that I worked at when I started my career. And we were just discussing also that Brandi accidentally turned up at a barbecue at my house. So that would have been in the debauchery days.
It very much was debaucherous. And I think there was like, what do you guys call not sausages? What are they called again?
Yeah, sausages.
And there's another name. Oh, Savaloys.
Oh, saveloys. Oh, yeah. Well, I no longer eat meat.
Right? I know. Well, a Savaloy's a far cry from that. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think there's much meat in saveloys anyway. I think it's mostly bread,
that's
isn't it?
right. Bread and yeah,
Yeah,
fillers.
yeah. Well, we won't go there. That's another podcast. Debauchery and fillers.
That's
So,
right.
Brandi, the reason why, sorry guys, the reason why I've invited Brandi on is to talk about what she's up to. I'm going to ask her to say a little bit about who she is, where she's come from, and what's led her to be in the space that she's working here. And I don't want to introduce it. I'm going to get her to introduce it because I'm absolutely enamored of the path that she's taking, because I take a very holistic approach to health and fitness. And this is going to literally blow your mind.
Wow. Okay. Well, and I think that this is why we've come back together and connected again, is because if you think about spending this many years, I did my first qualification in 1994. So that's putting me plus 30 years in the industry alongside you.
Yeah.
That you can't not be holistic in that span of time with the evolution of how you create change for yourself and for your clients or anybody that you're working with, right? So I think that that's also why there's overlap in our circle and we're vibrating at the same frequency, right?
I love that. I love that. So let's tell everybody what it is that you're up to. Well, actually, let's say what you have been doing, because I just got to say, I've been following Brandi through her journey, and I know that she was big into was yoga, wasn't it, Brandi? And some of those poses that you got into were nothing short of amazing. Doesn't even count it, but yeah, that was pretty impressive. So where did you begin with your qualification? What did you do with that?
Okay, so I first got into the fitness industry in 1994, and I had competed in gymnastics until I think 92. And I started lifting weights almost directly after that period of time. So we went right to this women's gym in the town that I grew up in Prince George, British Columbia, which is north of where I am now. And I just got the bug, like the weightlifting bug. And So then that was 94. I started to train heavy, and I just had an epiphany the other day about why I got into coaching and training and working with people to make them feel their absolute best through whichever method or metric that we're working in at any given time. It's always the core value has been to create an opportunity for people to feel into what it feels like to feel their best, right? Because I think we
Yeah.
overthink everything. And I, even from the early days, so I did an ACE qualification in Canada here and started working at a gym just on reception, training heavy, training heavy. Then I decided to move to the other big gym because the women's gym was a bit too many machines and I wanted to throw some dumbbells around, you know.
As we
So
do.
then then in early 95, I started training at the bigger gym in town. And I was like, you know what? I just want something more. And I kind of, ever since I was young, because my mom's a Kiwi, I didn't know that I was going to go to New Zealand, right? But I always knew, and it's not in a patronizing way for the people who choose to stay in their hometown. I think there's everyone's story is what it's supposed to be. But I just always knew I wasn't supposed to stay there. So I was working at the gym and I actually am writing a book and I don't even know how I figured out about CIT in Upper Hutt. I don't even know. Martine, honestly, I wrote this part of my book about applying to get into the exercise science program. I don't know
Yeah.
how I did that. Like, did we email then? Like, I actually don't remember.
No,
Did
we
I
didn't.
send a piece of mail to Mike Ryan at the Central Institute of Technology to
I,
apply?
I think we did have email, but it was all on dial-up. Do you remember that? Yeah,
Yes.
probably would have taken a week for the email to get delivered.
Well, so then that was me when I was working at that gym. I started exploring my options and I thought, you know, I can get a New Zealand passport. So I think I'm just going to go get my education there. And because I could have a passport, I didn't have to pay international student fees. And that was kind of the beginning of it. So I phoned my parents and I said, hey, I'm moving to New Zealand. Can you pay for my ticket? And they're like, no, you can save up. And so I saved up, I applied, I got in, and I headed down to New Zealand to do my exercise science. And that's when we met.
Yeah, I remember it. You were so, well, we were all so young and rambunctious.
Very
And just,
rambunctious.
yes, yes, that's
But
another
I
pod.
think the essence stays forever. The essence stays forever. And even thinking about, and I was just with a client before I came home, and him and his daughter come and train. And I said to him, you know, like my philosophy hasn't changed. I always said to my clients, even when I was 20 something years old training clients, I said, this isn't just about getting, back then it was like all about big biceps or,
Yeah,
or tight legs. This is like a heartfelt journey. Like you are changing your body. And I didn't know about cellular change the same way that I do now. But even then, even in the debaucherous days, the alcohol soaked and drenched days, I still really wanted people to feel good and that it's about that, right? And that it's not just a journey physically, that you can't start to create change physically and not have there be emotional and mental change. It's actually an impossibility, I believe, right?
my belief, 100%.
Yeah.
So, I love that. I love your philosophy. That's probably why we were always attracted, to be friends.
Yes, because even though, like, we were just speaking about like the past versions of us or looking back 30 years ago, of course, it's a vast expanse of knowledge that we've absorbed and we've sought out to create change for ourselves and for our clients. But like the philosophy remains. And then you layer all that beautiful knowledge and experience and seeing things change outside of you and inside of you is like that's the magic. So the magic starts and then you just the knowledge on top of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And your life reflects on the person you become, right? So it's about just practicing all of these modalities about how we're truly meant to be. We're not meant to be these stress bunnies that stress eat and drink alcohol to drown out the life. Those are the things that trigger us are the things that need to be dealt with.
There are messages, and even, even if you like that's like a big philosophical life message about paying attention to that. But even if you think, if you're, I say to a client, if you're like going into a posture or a stretch and you don't feel like something's changed, and something hasn't changed, but you feel the change. And so it's like, if you pay attention to those, if one muscle's saying, hey, like this is actually, I've got to breathe deeper, you get the feedback from your body. And as you respond to it, that becomes that organic conversation with your body, right?
Yeah. And I think that it's really great that people like you and I who have been in, and we've been in the days where it was go, 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 and there was no space to allow things to change back then, I feel. But now, and this is what I'm getting to where the space that you're in at the moment, which I think is paramount for people to get results in any area of your life. It just doesn't have to be your fitness and the shape of your body, but in your career and your relationships, creating that space in through your breath. And that leads me into where you're up to, if you want to tell us what you're up to now.
Yeah, so that was between 1995 and doing those qualifications, and then later on yoga. I did my yoga teacher training in 2010, and then I started running retreats because I was still living in England at the time. So then it really became a fusion. So it was the weight training and the fitness aspect, and then the yoga. Like I was like, aren't our bodies amazing that we can like just decide that we want to be stronger. We decide that we want to do this, and we start applying these practices, ancient practices, all of which are ancient practices, and we can create that change. So then that phase of being a little bit more yogic centric for me, or yoga centric rather, was kind of London years. I was still training heavy, but not the same as I was early New Zealand years. But the yoga caught a hold of my heart, and I love the feeling of it. And I love that if I look back, even with mental health and feeling good about life, not that I would have known those were the things that I was doing, but I've always used fitness, weight training, yoga, meditation, breath work has been my medicine.
Mm,
So as you like, when you talk about getting to a certain age, how we can reflect and we can kind of see what we've moved through, that I really recognize that. And I feel very grateful that I had the connection to myself even then, even if it looked messy, and even if I was still drinking alcohol and I was still, trying to manage my emotions with dieting or whatever it is, I still was really always radical acts of self-love through fitness, through yoga, right? So then it was kind of it became a little bit more robust with the spiritual aspect and the emotional aspect, even though I was very philosophical in the early days, like competing in New Zealand, going on those walks up Normandale with no carbs in your body and no more carbs coming for weeks on end, right? Mistakes made anyway. So even there, I was always philosophical, but this kind of the yoga led me inwards without projecting what it was meant to be. Because I think when you compete or when you do fitness, you're first of all being judged, like actual being judged, which is fine. I struggled with it personally. I liked getting up there and doing all the gymnastics and the one arm push ups and that, but standing there and turning and turning and turning, I struggled with that because it felt like it was a result of something so much bigger than that, right? So then when I stepped into yoga, it felt more like home because it felt like that was the essence and the organic reason for doing it, not for winning a competition or doing something like that, right?
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Was that bodybuilding that you did, or the
So
fitness?
I did fitness in 95 was my first show. No, 96, sorry. And then I really wanted to get big. I really wanted to get big and stay in bodybuilding because of my height And it's not like I'm super tall. I'm like between 5'7" and 5'8". For that height and my muscle bellies and the length of my limbs, I would have had to pack on probably 50 pounds of muscle, like with what bodybuilding looked like in those days, right? And I'm sure it is now too. So I thought, well, maybe I should move over to fitness because I've got a gymnastics background and I don't need to get as big. And I don't need to get as lean. I struggled getting lean, right? Lean and hard. Like I wasn't, it was just my aesthetic was different than what they were looking for.
Well, that's right. And actually, that is a good point. So the aesthetic that other people are looking for, why not look at the aesthetic that you want to achieve for yourself, but not just from the outside, but from the
Yes, your
inside
heart.
out. What does it look
Yeah.
like from the inside? Like it starts with loving yourself first and loving yourself and honoring yourself, particularly as women. I mean, I've said this before, I think, on a podcast. We are truly a portal from one dimension into another.
Oh, absolutely. And actually everyone is. I think women have a deeper sense of connection to themselves because we're nurturers, because we're mothers, because we are carers and givers of light and love and energy. So
Mm.
automatically by biological design, we are more connected, I feel, because we grow a baby in our body. How alchemic is that?
How amazing is that? And I think that a lot of what, like, I really like to point that out, particularly to my clients who are so hard on themselves. And I go, do you know how amazing you are? We need to honor that. You need to honor that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's what leads me. I really want people to hear what it is that you're doing and why you're doing
Yes.
it.
Okay. Sorry. See, this is the thing. It's
I
a
know
long
we do it all the
and the
time.
path is, it's a hike through the woods. It's not a straight trajectory forward. And I actually use that analogy with clients. I'm like, look, when you're trying to create change, it is not direct ascent. Because if it was, we would all be jumping up on top of buildings and it's just not that way. But anyway, through that convoluted path, fitness and then yoga. And I think it's worth noting because I have really stepped into honor living an alcohol-free life. And I gave up alcohol 3.5 years ago. I just had enough of myself. I was like, you know what? Like I feel like it was definitely holding me back confidence wise and my own true voice. I felt very much like a lot of relationships were going to change when I let go, and they did. And that's okay because you're changing your life, you're deciding something different. So that coincided around the time that I decided to take a breathwork qualification. Now, also rewind back because my first experience with breathwork happened in 2006 at a firewalking retreat in Sonoma, California. So we went on this retreat, my friend and I, and her boyfriend at the time, I was a flight attendant, and I'd gone out to Toronto and I was there with my friend and her partner, and we were drinking because that's what you do. And I'm very close with this friend of mine. And I was like, it's her boyfriend. Like we were just communicating openly. And I was in tears about just, feeling a bit lost in life, not knowing where I wanted to go and knowing that there was something bigger, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. And I didn't know what piece I needed to change to create the change that I was seeking. So he sent us on this firewalking retreat. And I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. Like this is I think it was like 5 days in
Wow.
in these cabins and we did fire walking. But the most transformative practice was breath work. So we were all in this big room and I'm like the spiritual baby of the group. There's a bunch of hippies. It's in California. My friend was all into chanting and all her things. And I'm just like, I do a lot of bicep curls and, just not really, but I was like not where they were, let's be honest. Like I was just dropped into this like insanely cool situation, right? So we go to do this breath work and I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? We're just like breathing a lot. And they're like, yeah. And you'll know when you're done. And I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, I don't get it. So we lie down on the ground. And I don't actually remember the exact technique. It could be the technique I use now, but it was mouth breathing. So it was inhale, exhale, really powerful breaths. And you're lying on the ground and you've got somebody up by your head who's holding space for you because a lot of the people that end up on these retreats are trying to deal with trauma, like people who have grown up in communes, people who have been sexually abused as children through family members. Like we're talking some heady tragedy, right? So I'm there and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's people who are reliving events in their life, right? And here I am feeling like I'm floating out in the universe, having this amazing experience. My arms were floating up in the air and I kept putting them down. And I think I was breathing for about 40 minutes. And the person that was holding space for me said, Brandi, just let your arms do what they want to do. And so I'm there. I felt like I was literally going to float up into the sky. It was beautiful. So I come out of that and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? This is insane. Like, why do people do drugs? Like, why do people drink? Why do people, this is in our physiology. Isn't that magnificent? And people are like, yeah, but it took work. Look at, you had to breathe like powerfully, these deep diaphragmatic breaths for 40 minutes. Let's say I'm pretty sure it was around 40 minutes to get there. So once I had that experience, I started breathing on my own in the hotel rooms because I was a flight attendant. So I always had a safe space. It was quiet. I didn't have to worry about anybody hearing me because I was also like, this is kind of weird. Like you're doing this, right? Like Westerners aren't used to that kind of breathing. Like even in
Um,
yoga, I think if you do a powerful breath and the person, if you're teaching and someone's only used to you being a trainer, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know that, Brandi, right? It's confronting. So
yeah,
I started practicing on my own, and whatever happened, it kind of fell out of my life. Yoga still stayed, fitness stayed. And then fast forward to a couple years ago when I decided to do the qualification, right? So I sent out this questionnaire, like I answered a questionnaire. I applied for a scholarship actually through this program because I was like, I actually can't, I don't want to say I can't afford it, but the funds weren't there at the time, right? So I had this interview and they said, before your interview, you need to do a short breathwork session that we send you, and you need to do the full 90-minute one before we interview you. So this was on the Friday, and I thought, well, I'll do the quick one now. And then I thought, actually, I've got time before I go get Jasmine from school, so I'm going to do the long one too. So I did that one 5 times before I had my interview because it would just took me right back to that
oh,
feeling that I had in California, like almost 20 years ago now. Well, it is over 20 years now, I think. No, under. It was 2006.
yeah.
So then I was kind of in, and then I'm like, I'm going to do anything that I need to do. And as I started doing the course and introduced, and since that time, I've been doing breath work daily. I've really looked back and reflected and thought the fitness, the training, my education there, the yoga, it was all preparation for this. I still love teaching yoga and I still love training clients, but it was preparation for this so that I could build into who I'm meant to become to do this work.
I get
So
that. Yeah.
it
Awesome.
is, sorry, it is long. I know sometimes it's hard to like shave it down, right? Into the,
Well, I think we miss all the deets if we shave it down, right?
that's
So,
right. And actually, that's where the juicy stuff is.
oh yeah, isn't it just? So we just have to have the patience to walk the journey and take the turns. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the breath work, what was probably three main things since you've been practicing all this time? What are the three main benefits that you would say to a client who was looking at doing a breathwork program with you?
Okay, three.
Only three.
I,
Well, we can
I,
do five.
okay. And they might all just gel together.
Yeah, they probably will.
So with the breath work, it's somatic breath work. So you're hyperoxygenating your body. And as you do that, I'll just give you a tiny bit of the science because then it kind of defines what happens in a journey so that you can understand how it impacts your daily life once you're outside of that session, right?
Love it. I love the science part.
Yeah. So when you hyperoxygenate like that, it creates a differentiation between your oxygen and your carbon dioxide. But also through that, you are your cognitive, the prefrontal cortex doesn't have the resources to be able to overthink or analyze. So you step out of that cognizant brain, that monkey mind, that Westerner, shoulda, coulda, woulda, to-do lists, all that stuff. It doesn't mean you're there the entire time. And also it's a journey like anything. So you might have moments of that. But what happens as you hyperoxygenate your body, you're kind of gently ushering your mind into the back seat and you're allowing your physiology to take over. So say for instance, you might feel some cramping in your hands, you might cry, you might laugh, you might have memories come up that could be traumatic or could be beautiful. It's really just using your breath as a tool to connect you into that inner world. And the more we learn about science, we all know now that we store trauma in the musculature of our body. And yes, there's some memories that we don't even have the memory solidified. It's kind of tucked away into your physiology. So as you go through the breath work, things are going to start to come up. So a really good example for me personally. So I'm a single mom, and Jasmine's dad is on the other side of the world. He's not involved in her life. He comes sometimes and then he goes off the radar for like a year at a time. And I have a hard time with that because I feel like she's being robbed of love and care, but also not taking into account whatever his trauma is for being that person. So through this journey, I never was thinking, I'm going to do this to forgive him. I'm going to do this to see him as the human that is in pain that he is. It never crossed my mind. But little by little, I started softening that anger that I had towards him for his absence. I started softening my judgment on him through his anger, the way that he deals with life didn't resonate, of course. And, there's these gifts that you will find, and every single person has such a different fabric of their life that you might think you're going in to create change in one area. Maybe you want to mitigate stress. Maybe you want to reduce your anxiety. Maybe you want to, calm your nervous system and regulate your nervous system. Yes, all those things are going to happen. But if you stay the course, there's going to be little awakenings and little gifts that come up that you weren't even looking for because your body's saying like you're ready to let go of this. And so it allows in those moments when you're breathing like that and everything feels beautiful and free and you feel capable, you feel strong, you feel love, you feel able to do everything that you ever thought you could do, that version of you exists. It's down there. So when you're breathing, it's almost like you're churning it up. And sometimes the pain comes up with that. But the beauty is, I can't speak for everybody, but from my perspective, is even if there's pain, on the other side of that pain is where you're experiencing emotional freedom. And it's the same with if you go to the gym and you go, I'm going to work really hard. And on the other side of that is that, the dopamine that rushes into your body that doesn't drop below baseline. There's endorphins that you're creating more endorphin receptor sites. All of that beauty is on the other side of that struggle. So whether it be when you're training or whether it be when you're digging in the depths of your being through a breathwork session, it's on the other side of it. And we all have this tool. Every single one of us isn't that like I actually get goosebumps talking about it because the world is starting to come back to this ancient practice because people are looking, these are all indigenous practices too, that have been done by indigenous cultures around the world for millennia, you know? So I think from that perspective, it's so beautiful. We all have this and you might not know what some of those benefits are. Will you feel more calm? Yes. Will you feel more confident? Absolutely. Will you feel like you've got a micro moment before responding to the old pattern that you might have or the old internal programming of telling you you can't do that. You can't go do that because you got scars on your face and you don't want people to see you on a podcast. You can't do that because you don't have a master's in cellular biology. You stop those programs, you can start to recreate those programs within you, and you can start to give yourself permission to forgive yourself for the past or things you think are mistakes where they're just gifts and learning. So I think that the whole walking through your daily life and recognizing like your value. And when you invest that time with your breath, when you invest that time with yoga, fitness, meditation, whatever your choice is, or your artwork, or learning a language, when you invest in yourself, those gifts they're gonna sprinkle out and cascade into every part of your life.
One word comes to mind for me, actually, and it's repetitive in my very being is peace. Peace.
Yes.
Peace. Everything about what you've just said. And I was just absolutely spellbound because like it was kind of already, I'm not even doing the breath work and I'm already feeling. And it would
Oh,
be
it gives me
interesting.
goosebumps.
I know, and it would be interesting in the comments if you get to this part to comment below what that section that Brandi was just talking about. How did that make you feel? What did it bring up for you? And is that something that you really want in your life? You know, to be stop having those harnesses and those leashes pulling us back
Yes.
from being who we intrinsically are. And it's about
Yes.
it's not about
And
freedom.
giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
And you know, and so when you ask about the key points and the things, no one's coming. You know, you hear everybody saying, no one's coming. No one's coming to give you permission to let go of that regret, to let go of that thing that you're ashamed of. Every single one of us has something we need to
Mm,
let go of. So when you go into these altered states and you're in control of the breath from the very beginning to the very end. So like if somebody goes into a journey, I always explain, look, this is your journey. You don't have to go all in today, but maybe you do want to go all in. And if it's painful, you can let it be painful, or maybe you back off and come back to a gentle breath and go, wow, okay, now I'm starting to understand the magnitude of this. This is like our autonomic system that we can control. It's the only thing in our body that works on its own, but we also get to manipulate that way. So we get to choose it, right? And I think that you give yourself when you say, okay, I'm going to try this. And I also feel and deeply believe that there's no mistake that whoever's listening to this is hearing this because it's the right time. The
oh,
same as when it was the right time for me to give up alcohol or the right time to go, you know what? I am going to go on that podcast with Martine. You know, I am going to do my own pod. I'm ready. And I think that nobody was holding me back before except for me. And no one's holding you back and no one's holding anyone back. So you get I feel like the breath work, if you stay with a practice, you are going to start to give yourself permission because you are going to start to zoom out and look at yourself through the lens of love and go, wow, you know what? If I'm not my best version, if I'm not the magnificence that I am, nobody else can be you. So you actually have like a very, very big responsibility to yourself, to your friends, to your family, to your community, and to your world to become that version. Because no, it will not
100%.
be realized.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
And it's scary. I know that I've had to go on a few healing journeys myself, like, you know, dealing with trauma. And trauma is I don't actually like that word, but it's the only word that I have. And trauma is different from person to person, right? So and I do tend to think that people measure the impact of their own traumas because it's not as big, or I didn't get this and I didn't have that happen to me, so I don't deserve to feel that bad because I only had this little thing. Trauma is trauma, whether it's a knock to the
Yes.
head or somebody told you a bad thing. How you respond to that and how you store that in your body, in your muscles, in your DNA, in your fascia. You know, it's
Yes.
all in there. It's not a competition as to how big your trauma was. Trauma is trauma. And so,
Yes. And like from that perspective, like you said, it's not a competition and none of it is. And this
no,
is coming back to feeling. How do you want to feel? You don't need to measure up to anything external to you. It's all within. And the comparison, You do you want to know why I didn't speak about my life being alcohol free up until I literally when you might have seen my one of my first posts like 2 months ago maybe, and very gentle. Just gently, oh, I haven't drank, but not out there in my truth because I was felt guilty because it was easy for me to give up alcohol and because I wasn't fall down drunk and because I wasn't, you know, losing my home with bad decisions. So I felt like I didn't struggle enough to say that I'm living a sober life. Well, really, alcohol did hold me back. And I also feel like I did it to fit in to the groups of people that I was already with. And I was scared to leave that because I would lose friendships and relationships. And I did. And it's okay because I finally got to the point where I'm like, I'm growing. I'm going up the mountain and whoever wants to come or whoever's walking along beside me, let's go. But whoever's not, I'm not stifling my voice just because I didn't have to go to rehab or because I I didn't have a rock bottom event, right? And that's that comparison. Your heartbreak or your trauma or what you carry, it could be one thing that someone said to you when you were young that shaped how you respond to your external world. And somebody else could have much deeper trauma. And everybody just has to be on their own journey and go, I can't compare to anyone else. I can't.
I
My
have a
heart's been through
saying.
different things.
I have a saying about comparison. But comparison is the thief of joy. When we're
Yeah,
so
it
busy
absolutely is.
comparing and measuring ourselves to what we think we should be or against somebody else, we miss the true beauty and the magic of who we truly are. And that's what I love about what you're bringing to this wellness space is to help people create that space within and the magic within themselves so they can unleash that and just like there's that word again, peace, and just bring peace,
Yeah.
but that's what we need like today. It's peace. And kind of am feeling that now because we spoke earlier, I've had 7 years away from the gym scene and recently returned. And so I was working from home and coaching clients online and doing that sort of thing. And I really had a really strong feeling of sadness and loss. And for me, it was the connection with other humans.
Yes.
So now that I'm back at Les Mills and honestly the vibe your vibe finds your tribe, right? So you just got to
Yes.
be around that. And what I'm hoping for people that are watching this podcast is that they actually listen to what you're saying about this whole breath thing and connecting with who you truly are. Is there somewhere that they can go to follow you or maybe even work with you?
It's at Galleria Estima. So I'm actually building a program right now with my dear friend Scarlett, who's in Austria. And so we're just working, we're really working through a really complete launch, right? So it's going to be our niche market is um, newly sober women 35 and over that are professionals we're going to use the tools of breath work and meditation and connection and community and give like for me when I stopped drinking I was very focused on my business anyway, so I wasn't super social even leading up to quitting drinking. I was more like having a couple glasses of wine at home because I didn't really actually feel like anybody else was on that same path as me. And then when I quit drinking, I felt that even more because there was changes that were taking place for me that were really beautiful that I felt really great about and overwhelming sense of health and well-being. But I didn't really have in where I live as a smaller town. I didn't really have that space. And we wanted to create something that brought all of the gifts that we have to share, that we want to share with the world through breath work, through our teachings, through meditation, and a community so that people who have decided to let go of alcohol now have, first of all, a tool, because sometimes when people let go of that, they struggle with anxiety of fitting in. And I know for me personally, I probably didn't let go. I could have let go much earlier but I think I deep down knew that relationships were going to change and I wasn't quite ready for that. So we
Yeah,
wanted to create something that gave people the tools to step into that beautiful space within, to not have to fit in, but then they do have a community there where they have access, like our coaching, and a community to connect with each other so that they can share their experiences of what it feels like on their journey. And it could be all through any spectrum. It could be someone that's sober curious and just stopped drinking and is all of a sudden sober. It could be somebody that has been sober for 5 years but hasn't quite found that space. And look, when you create that space within, like you just said, your vibe finds your tribe, that it would be that we create that feeling of connection within that community online. And then as people feel emboldened and allow themselves to be the most magnificent version of themselves, they're going to go out into the world and magnetize it anyway, right? So you're just leveling up your vibration. You're deciding this isn't something that's serving me anymore. I want to replace this one negative habit because you take drinking. Think about the time that it takes to commit to that when you think about how often people go and meet and gather to drink. It's very alcohol centric. So you take that away and you might have 4 evenings a week that you used to be connecting with friends and getting tipsy and having fun and enjoying it, but paying a physiological price. Then when we place something like breath work and daily tools and meditation in that space, then you really start to get to the essence of what you're trying to create for yourself, and then everything outside, you can't help but pull that towards you because you've cleared space for that. You've cleared space of the toxin. You've cleared space for the things that you haven't let yourself let go of until today, for instance, right?
and I know there's going to be a lot of people on here that really struggle with that. Like, oh my God, I can't give up my wine because, that's the way I end my day. I get that a lot with my clients. And I say to them, well, okay, what is it that this drink does for you? Like, what is it? And mostly,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's a way of them finishing the day and leaving the day behind. So
Yeah, it's a
it's about
gesture. It's a ritual.
it is a ritual, and it becomes very difficult for some people to give up. So recently, well, the last couple of years, I haven't really bothered. I wouldn't say that I never have a drink, but it's very, very seldom. And then I'm very mindful of how many that I'm having. And this bloody watch, because if you get a watch like this, I've got a Garmin, and it shows you your
Oh my
sleep.
gosh, that's my dream watch. That one you're wearing. Does it have a gold face?
Yes,
So
rose
pretty.
gold.
It's the prettiest garment out there. That's been on my list for a couple years.
That's so nice. But it shows you like when you're sleeping, it should have blue lines and it should be, all peaceful. But even
Yes.
one drink, stress all night. So
Mm.
you're not really resting your body.
Well, and you say one drink, but do you want to know that they did a study? They, I wish I could cite my references. 2 tablespoons of wine for a woman, 2 tablespoons of beer for a man has a negative physiological impact on several processes that all lead you to a night that is not restful. And like, the science is coming in hard and fast on rest as well. So not only the alcohol, when there's so much information about, it never crossed my mind that alcohol was responsible for 7 types of cancer. I didn't know that.
I didn't know
I
that
don't,
either. I'm just learning that now.
right? And it's out there now. The science is out there. And the sleep is the other big one. So if you're not sleeping, that is an indication of several processes that are not happening the way they're meant to be. And if you
100%.
backtrack to what it is, and the one factor was 2 tablespoons of beer or 2 tablespoons of wine. And okay, so look at your lifestyle. And we go all the way back to when we first met. And
Mm.
we were passionate. We had the vibe. We wanted to like change people's lives, but we also applied that strategy of life to drinking, right? I was abundant with my consumption.
I'm going to say I was the party animal from hell.
We were. But then also, let's just take a moment and look at that. And again, that zoom out and look at yourself through the lens of love and go, wow, like you organically made that change. I organically chose it. It felt right. It wasn't, I have to, I have to, I have to. It organically happened. And it's the same with fitness, with well-being, that if you keep heading, you don't need to know the path to be on the path. You keep going in the right direction, you are going to find yourself where you're meant to be,
I love that.
right?
It's true. It's moving towards what you do want rather than feeling like you're giving something up. You're not giving something up. You're moving
No.
towards the life of your dreams. With every decision that you make and every practice that you put in, you're moving towards something unimaginable. I mean,
And every thought.
every thought, I mean, like it's just life. Could you imagine if everybody did the breath work and everybody ate healthy and everybody fed their mindset? I mean, we wouldn't have this bullshit in the world right now.
Well, no, and this is it. This is the other part that I know I'm going to butcher this quote, and it's like a Stoic philosopher who essentially said, in times of greatness and joy and happiness, let your practices remain. In times of strife, in pain, in chaos, in not knowing, let your practices remain. So those should be the basis of all of our lifestyles, because especially in this world with there's a lot of chaos. And if you don't give yourself that respite, and I say it with the studio, if somebody comes in and they're upset with their husband or they're in tears about work, I'm like, okay, you can be pissed off about that. And you can go right back to being pissed off about that when you leave. But right now, this hour is for you. And what do we find is when we commit to that time, when we start to release those myokines into the system, those hope molecules, you walk out a different way. So it emboldens you to feel, okay, you know what? Everything's going to be okay. I can't solve all your problems. Also, it's not up to me, but I can make you work hard in this space. I can fill you with love and light and remind you how amazing you are. And then when you walk out that door, you're going to feel differently. And that cellularly changes you, right? And
Yes,
then you get to decide how much you let sink in from this external chaos, right?
yes, 100%. So I know that you have invited me to do a couple of breathwork sessions with you, and I just haven't been able to sync it in with the time frame. Are you still doing that?
Yes. So right now, because I'm really busy building out that program,
Yeah.
next week, so I'll send you the times. That Thursday one, which is your Friday, 7:30 a.m. now because we're 4 hours difference. So Aotearoa, yeah, 4 hours, but it's your Friday morning and it's my Thursday. So that one's kind of been the mainstay that is on there. So I can send that through to you. And if anybody wanted to come and join, the first session's always free. So you can come and experience it. If you've got headsets and a quiet room, you lie on your bed and away you go. So,
What a way
um,
to start a Friday.
yes. And honestly, so when I did my training, they're like, okay, you want to do this breath work, however, like once a week or maybe once a month, and I was like, I'm doing it every day. Like I actually, and people are like even the head guy, he's like, no, that's too much. And then I sent him a long email and I said, you know what? Actually, no, this is helping me. I was exploring bankruptcy. I was getting ready to shut the studio down. I was trying to get full custody, legal custody of my daughter, who I've raised by myself since she was 14 months. I had this like platter of stress. And I was like, I am not going to get through this and be able to lead my clients the way that I want to if I am not stepping inward every single day. And he's like, oh, that's f***ing amazing. Like, good for you. Kind of, sorry, I don't know if you're allowed to swear on
No,
here.
it's okay. I drop
Uh,
F-bombs all the time.
okay, good. So I stood up to him and said, no, this is what is I need. And he goes, well, we just have to be mindful because not everybody has that. First of all, can maintain that for any duration. And it's not like like think about when you talk to a client about what they should be doing when they're not with you. Like you start small and then it evolves and it grows on its own organically into what works for you. So if you put together a yoga sequence or I put together something for someone, they might start by doing that 5 minutes and all of a sudden it's finding a life of its own and it's becoming what they need. And this is what I said to him. I said, nobody can tell me this isn't what I need because I know in my system, in my heart, in my body, this is what I need. And that is the thing. When you find that space, you can do whatever you want within the confines of the safety that you know is for you, right?
I love that. Yeah, you get to choose. No
You
one's
get to
no one's
choose.
prescribing. You learn the tools and you put them into practice and find what works for you and find what doesn't work for you. But you've
Yeah.
always got to be on the path of becoming the grandest version of yourself because otherwise,
What are you doing?
what else is there?
Well, and the thing is too, is those distractions are designed to keep us out of our inner power. They are designed, even these phones for the kids, these games that they're playing on phones, they take behavioral psychologists and get them to say what is the best way to give the highest dopamine rush and a drop and a rush and a drop. They it's so sad that it is designed to keep us out of our power, that it's designed to stop people from feeling great so that they don't have to buy every pair of yoga pants that comes across their feed. They want us to be consumers, but when we start going inwards, we become our own creators and we become creators of what we want to. It makes us more mindful with how we spend our time. We spend how we speak to ourselves. That saying that be careful what you think, every single cell in your body is listening to you.
Oh, I say
We
that all the time.
Right? And it is true. So when you're caught in that external pull and not going inwards, you're it's a big task to not be pulled into anything. But once you start pulling yourself inward, it gets easier and easier, right?
Right. Oh, look, it's been amazing. I could talk about this all day.
And we need to have 2.0 because I think we
We
didn't like
will.
there was a lot of things too that we kind of thought we were gonna touch on and but this is the other part that when we sit down and we're both speaking from an organic space of like you can't script this at
No,
all.
you can't. So just so
Right.
you know, guys, I did have an agenda, but I did
You
say to
followed,
Brandy, here's an
not
agenda.
pointless.
However, I've got a funny feeling that we're just going to be led to where it's supposed to go. So I don't want to wrap it up, but we're going to. And but we are going to have a 2.0, Brandy. You got to promise me that you're going to come back on because
Oh, I would love
especially when you're
I would
launching
love
the
it.
program, we're gonna launch that on a podcast, and we'll do that. But what would
And you
be
should come on my podcast too as I get rolling.
I'm going to. I'm going to. So, have you got any events coming up just so I can let people know? I'm going to put your socials down so that people can go follow you and see what you're about because that's always a good thing. And but have you got any closing comments or one piece of sage advice or maybe your favorite quote that you'd like to share before we finish?
Well, so I don't have any events because we're working really hard on this launch right now. And I'm still like a lot of the stuff that I do here is in real life, right? Like at the studio. Um, so nothing quite yet, but there will be retreats attached to this program that we're launching. There will be opportunities, but I actually feel like if somebody wants to kind of get the feeling more of what I'm about outside of this space, follow me because I really feel like it's nice to get to know someone's essence before I'm like, "Hey, you should come and join us." I really want to be organic in this space because I do feel like a lot is curated specifically with intent, a different intent. I look, you need to be able to get your programs out there to do the work. But right now I don't have anything other than the launch of the program. So it's a great time to go and follow me, to get a feel for what my voice is like. Maybe some of my philosophies are going to come up on there. And it's like a zero pressure kind of situation, right?
I love that. Yeah, and you're right. It is good. Like, and we're all a bit voyeurish on here. We like to go, we like the sound of what somebody says, and then we'll go and follow them on socials and we'll get to know them. And we sometimes we choose to work with them, sometimes not. But that's our job is about creating and adding value so that people can take tidbits. Like we have programs, we can make money through what we do. That's not a problem. But really, I think you're in the same essence as me, is that we're here to serve people.
Yes. And if if we are putting our voices out there, and we talked about this at the beginning with the resonance, like somebody could listen to my voice and it doesn't land. Somebody
Mm,
could listen to someone else's and it's exactly what they need. But by having our voice out there, and we talk about like the responsibility to be that best version of you and to share what you want to share, if you're not doing that, somebody else is missing out on an opportunity to connect with you, to maybe you say one thing and they're like, "Oh my goodness, yes, that's for me." And I mean that, like, and when we spoke about this, like there's enough work for every single one of us that's out there trying to create wellness and build happier hearts and better mental health and stronger muscles and stronger bones, like all those things. If we're all out there organically sharing and creating and adding value, like you said, the people that want to hear my voice are going to listen to my voice. The people
yeah,
that find it annoying will jog on. It's okay. It's beautiful because there's only one Brandi Styles, right? So
yeah.
if I'm not saying anything in that arena, well, then no one's getting served by me, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Brandi, it's just been amazing. Thank you so much. We're definitely doing 2.0. And remember, guys, the socials will be in the description. So you can go follow her, give her some likes. And you know what? Cheer us both on because we're out there. It takes
Yeah,
guts to do what we do. I'm just going to take a stand there. It's, we've
yeah.
got balls bigger than most men.
But you know what the other thing is too, is that like think about COVID. So this is coming to the age thing. So I'm like, I'm an in real life person. I can't do online. And I'm all these limitations deciding and telling myself so I stay entrenched in old patterns. Did I lead online almost every day during COVID for my friends for free? Yes, I did. Did I like it? Absolutely. Um, we from that generation, and even to this day with my clients at the studio, I'm writing down with a pen on paper each session. I like that. But getting out into this realm and sharing, I'm 50 and I'm so proud that I'm 50 and I'm like I'm halfway through life, like this is where it's going to pick up and like everything's just going to get even better. So being out in this realm, like it's exciting, but it took a bit at the beginning because at first I was hesitant. I'm like, I know, I just don't think I'm an online person. Well, stop telling yourself that. So when you say cheer on, I think anybody that's out there intentionally sharing goodness and light and love and trying to help, spread about it, information about the good science and all the amazing things that are going on. Yeah. Cause it's like it does take a little bit to jump into the water, but once you're in, you're like, let's do it. Right.
Yeah, this is the good news. Share the good news. Don't be sharing the
Yeah.
bad news.
Yeah.
That
Totally.
behind. Yeah.
Totally.
All
Yes.
right. Then my lovely, we're gonna sign off and
Thank you
thank
so
you so
much.
much again.
And you are light and you're love and your journey is amazing to watch too. I love seeing you cruising out for your walks in the woods and sharing the beauty of Aotearoa and all of that. So yes, thank you. You're
Gonna
amazing.
be
Thank you.
more of that to come. We'll talk soon, hun.
Thank you so much.